I hadn't wanted to go to that office party. Claire, my wife, had been hyping up all week, talking about how perfect her coworker Daniel was, how he'd organized everything flawlessly, how thoughtful and funny he was, how everyone at the office adored him. She said he always knew the right thing to say. I'd laughed it off at first, pretending it didn't bother me, but deep down, something in me started to ache. It wasn't jealousy, at least that's what I kept telling myself. When the night finally came, the office lobby looked like a page ripped from a lifestyle magazine. Fairy lights, champagne, soft music that made it easy to ignore your thoughts. Claire was stunning in her deep red dress, the one she only wore for special occasions. That glow she had, the one that used to belong to me, was back, but now it felt like she was shining for someone else. Standing beside her, I didn't feel like her husband anymore. I felt like an accessory. "Babe, this is Daniel," she said, tugging me toward a tall, perfectly groomed man with a smile that looked rehearsed. He shook my hand with that firm, confident grip, the kind that silently says I don't lose. "Ethan, right?" he said smoothly. "Heard a lot about you." The way he said it, that deliberate pause, the grin, wasn't friendly. It was strategic. Claire laughed at something I didn't catch, her hand brushing against the sleeve. I stood there, invisible, holding a glass of champagne that tasted like air. All night, I caught him glancing at me. Not confrontational, just smug, like someone holding a secret he enjoyed keeping. Claire moved through the crowd effortlessly, her laughter trailing behind her like perfume. I told myself not to overthink it, that I was being paranoid. But the gut has its own way of telling the truth long before logic dares to. By 11, I'd had enough. Claire said she was staying a bit longer to help clean up. I nodded, pretending not to care. I walked out into the cold air, telling myself maybe I was just imagining things. Maybe Daniel was just a charming guy. Maybe Claire's admiration was harmless. But I didn't drive home. I sat in the car for a while, watching people leave one by one. Something inside me whispered, "Wait." About an hour later, Claire texted, "Still here, almost done." I got out and walked back inside. The music had stopped. The place was nearly empty, a few staff collecting decorations. That's when I saw Daniel, near the conference room, alone. He looked up like he'd been expecting me. "Didn't think you'd come back," he said, a smirk tugging at his mouth. "Just waiting for Claire," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Sharp, expensive, intentional. "You've got a good one," he said quietly. "Claire's special." I didn't respond. His stare didn't waver. "She talks about you, you know," he continued. "Says you're reliable. Steady. But she also says you don't notice things anymore." He smiled, not kindly, but like a man who knew he'd found a weak spot. His words hit harder than they should have. Then, leaning closer, he murmured, "Ever wonder what happens when someone else starts noticing what you've forgotten to?" My fist tightened. Every instinct told me to hit him. Instead, I just met his eyes, and I saw the arrogance there, the confidence of someone who knew exactly how far he'd crossed the line. Before I could answer, Claire's voice came from behind me. "There you are." Daniel stepped back smoothly, his composure instant, his fake politeness sliding back into place. "Great party, huh?" he said casually to her. "Yeah, he really went all out," Claire replied, looping her arm through mine like nothing had happened. As we walked to the car, her touch felt weightless, like it wasn't meant to stay. My heart pounded, but I stayed quiet. Daniel's words echoed in my head. "Ever wonder what happens when someone else starts noticing what you've forgotten to?" That night, I barely slept. I could still hear his voice, calm, cutting, smug. It wasn't just the words. It was the way he said them, deliberate, cruel, and certain. Claire slept soundly beside me, breathing slow and steady. I stared at the ceiling, wondering if she was dreaming of me, or the man who'd made her feel seen. The next few days went on like nothing had happened. She still smiled, still asked about my day, still laughed at shows we no longer cared about. But something inside me had shifted. Every laugh sounded borrowed. Every text from work made my stomach twist. I told myself not to let paranoia ruin us, But the truth was, Daniel had already planted the poison. The following Friday, Claire mentioned another team dinner. "It's just a quick thing," she said, putting on her earrings. "Daniel's wrapping up the project." I forced a smile. "You and Daniel seem close." She froze, just for a heartbeat, then said, "He's just a coworker. You're overthinking it." Her tone was sharp, defensive. I didn't argue. "Have fun," I said quietly. After she left, the house felt hollow, like a theater after the curtain drops. I sat there in the silence for a while before grabbing my jacket and keys. I drove to her office. The building was dimly lit. Work clearly over, but something else lingering. I parked across the street and waited. Eventually, she came out laughing, that soft, open laugh she used to share with me. And right beside her was Daniel. He placed his hand lightly on her back as they walked. Not obvious, but deliberate. I didn't confront them. I didn't shout. I just drove home, slower than usual, a strange calm settling over me where pain used to be. Something had finally broken, or maybe something had finally healed. When Claire got home later, she looked surprised to see me still awake. "Hey," she said softly, "you're up late." "Yeah," I replied. "Couldn't sleep." She smiled faintly. "You look tired. Everything okay?" I looked at her, really looked, and realized how far away she already was. Whatever love we had faded long before Daniel showed up. He wasn't the cause. He was just the evidence. "I'm fine," I said, "but I think we need to talk." Her face tightened. "About what?" "About us. About whether we're still the same people who got married 8 years ago." She hesitated, her eyes searching mine. "Why are you saying this?" "Because," I said quietly, "I think you've already left. You just haven't packed yet." Her gaze dropped. "I don't know what you want me to say, Ethan." "Honesty," I said. "That'd be a start." She swallowed hard. "Daniel and I, it's nothing serious. I just wanted to feel notice." "I know," I said gently. "You wanted to feel seen." Her eyes filled, not with regret, but with exhaustion. "You stopped seeing me a long time ago." Maybe she was right. Maybe I had. I nodded. "Then I guess this is where we stop pretending." That night, there were no fights, no begging, no slammed doors. I packed a small bag, took my keys, and walked out quietly. Just closure. It's been 4 months now. I live in a small apartment across town. I still go to work. Still cook for one. Still sleep better than I thought I would. Sometimes I think about her, not with anger, just a kind of distant sadness. And sometimes Daniel's words echo again in my head. Ever wonder what happens when someone else starts noticing what you've forgotten to? Back then, those words haunted me.